Thank you for tuning in to another episode of Live Stream of Consciousness, rocking with you here on the Wednesday, the hours, literally hours away from NBA free agency. It's going to be a free agency more of trades than signings, obviously. And started off this morning with the trade. The Nuggets traded Marcus Morris, or his name ain't Marcus Morris, Monte Morris, and Will Barton for KCP and Ish Smith to Washington. And didn't really understand this trade at first. It was so lopsided that I thought it was just Barton, but then I realized that they added Monte Morris, one of my favorite players, bench players in the league, into the package. And it's because they were trying to cut cap, try to get under the luxury tax. I'm here looking at their roster, trying to make sense of the deal. And if you look at it in a more panoramic view, their team is a really short team. So, you have Bones Highland, who's about 6'2", the rookie that played well this year. You have Marcus Morris, Monte Morris, and Will Barton, who's 6'5". He's more 6'4", 6'3". So I can see why they're saying, okay, we have a lot of redundant players. Let's consolidate, get under the tax, maybe add another wing, and we're 8-9 deep. DeMarcus Cousins, he played really well for them last year. So I can see that. I just hope it's just not we're going to cut the cap. And, you have a team who a lot of people, including Zach Lowe, my favorite NBA analyst, that's not myself, that said, this team was a contender the year that Jamal Murray got hurt. So be interesting to see. I've talked a lot about the Clippers. Shout out to my man, Michael Walker Jr. He called me out. He says this is becoming a Lakers show. So let me give love to the Clippers. Like I said, I think that they're the heavy favorites. Player for player, I think this might be the deepest roster that I've seen. I don't want to say be hyperbolic and say the deepest roster that I've ever seen, but I have to say that. Like, if you have a team that's going to have Covington, Paul George, who knows if they keep Hood. You have Reggie Jackson. They're probably going to do something with Kennard. You have Terrence Mann, Marcus Morris. Then you add John Wall into the mix with Norman Powell and Zubac as well. What John Wall does for them is he gives them easy buckets in transition. One of the fastest players in the league. And he gives them a dynamic half-court offense. He's a great pick and roll player. Gave, his teammates open threes all game. That was his calling card. He was one of the league leaders every year in open three-point shots created. So their offense, the Clippers offense, it always felt real clunky to me. Paul George is a bit of a ball stopper. He's not really a pick and roll player. Kawhi Leonard's not a pick and roll player. I've talked a little bit about this with Kevin Durant. Pick and roll, what it does is it allows you to evolve two players, and it gives you a play and a flow when the game gets tight, and if you're not a dynamic pick and roll player, you have to be really, really good ISOing, and you have to be really, really good with spacing besides you, and I think that's why Kevin Durant kind of struggles, is he's not really a good pick and roll player. So a lot of times he's left to shoot these contested jumpers. And that was great when you play with the Warriors and you have, the two greatest shooters of all time flanking you. You have Draymond Green, one of the smartest players of all time, one of the best passing big men that the league has ever seen, and Andre Iguodala flanking you. There's spacing, and then there's playmaking and vision. So you can kind of take advantage of that and really, pick your spots on the court and do what you need to do and not worry about the other team really gearing up to defend you. But the Clippers, they don't have that luxury of playing with Steph Curry and Klay Thompson literally flanking you and making sure you have elite spacing. So I thought that they needed like more a lot of these playoff games come down to the crunch and what are you running in the crunch situation? What was the Clippers offense in these crunch time situations going to be? It was just going to be a lot of Kawhi Leonard ISO. And the thing about ISO is you're not involving another player by definition. So Kawhi Leonard's going, but what is Paul George doing? You know, that's why I always liked to bring it back to the Lakers. LeBron and AD, they fit so well together because at the end of the day, you know, they can run pick and roll with each other. It's LeBron AD, pick and roll, pick and roll, pick and roll. If you remember the bubble playoff, LeBron AD, pick and roll, pick and roll, pick and roll. If I get a favorable matchup, I give it to you. Both our best two players are involved in the game, and we're creating open shots for others. ISO, the defender guards you. If you make it, you make it. If you miss it, you miss it. You know, so that's my little spiel on the Clippers. But yeah, I think they're just a really stacked team. They might be too stacked though. It just depends. These guys are a lot older. Paul George is 32. Kawhi Leonard is 31. Oh, he's younger than Paul George. I didn't know that. But they're coming off of injuries. One, and there is a decline. LeBron makes you to believe that every player can play well into the late 30s, and it's just not always the case. So we'll see. But I think this is one of the deepest teams ever assembled, and you have to tip your cap to Ballmer for willing to pay the price of the brick and to put out a great team out there. Let's see. NBA, DeJounte Murray to the Hawks. I talked about this a little bit yesterday. I really like this move for the Hawks. They did give up 2 unprotected picks in 2025 and 2027, but you have your guy and Trae Young. You have your franchise cornerstone. So the question was, how do we find players to complement him? I thought that he needed a pick and roll partner, as I mentioned just before, but there's not really that many pick and roll partners in the league that can dive and actually make plays. It would be hard for them to get that. So the next thing is just to find someone who can make plays so it's not all on his plate. In the series, Miami, they really, bodied him up, was physical, really geared their defense towards him, and he couldn't really pass it off. Bogdanovich was that player for them last year, the year before this one, excuse me. But he was injured and he was dealing with injuries and he wasn't the same guy off the bounce. And Herder and Hunter haven't really improved at all. So I like this. I mean, there's other deals that they're probably going to make. It looks like Collins is on his way out. I would trade Capella as well. We'll talk about that in a little bit, and the good, the bad, the ugly, check that out. But we'll see what they end up doing. But I like this deal. The price of the brick was pretty high, but I think he fits well next to Trae. Trae's going to have to improve his off the ball. A lot of people compare him to Steph Curry, and it'd be interesting to see if Steph Curry was always this great in running off screens and moving, but that's something that needs to incorporate his game now more than ever since you have another primary ball handler. And secondly, I think he needs to improve his size, but I think that, add some strength so he's not bullied as much. Beal declines his option. That was obvious. He's just trying to get his 250. With him, I'm going to get the max. What is the max? They'll probably say it in here. The 5-year max, I think his 5-year max is 250. He's trying to get his 5 years, 250, and then we'll talk about that other stuff later. I mean, winning is great, but setting up your family with generational money is even better. You can get that contract. You have to stay for 1 year. The year after that, if he wants to trade, he can just, I went out. I'm sure he'll find a suitor. So that looks like that. Mills opts out. He looked terrible in that series versus the Celtics. He just wasn't making shots, and he's a smaller player. So the time runs out on those players usually quicker than other players. I see Portis declined his option. They said he's going to sign that 3-year, $30 million deals, 10 a year. I mean, that's the mid-level exception. I think this team actually needs some wings, but, Lopez is getting up there in age, and he plays so well with Giannis. It makes sense. The Kings won't make offer to DiVincenzo. He was very unhappy in his time in Sacramento. And this is the thing, this is the second time they're just letting an asset walk. Like, I don't understand it. They let Bogdanovich walk. Even if you don't like him as a player, sign him, and then you can trade him. And again, they're letting another asset, Dante DiVincenzo, a player that they traded for, walk. You're not, this is just bad management. Just give him the qualifying offer. Unless they have a trade for all-star, which I'm actually going to talk about here in a second. Unless they have a trade for an all-star, this makes 0 sense. They say he's going to gather a lot of interest. He's good. I like him as a player. He's athletic. He's a bit undersized, but he defends. I like him as a player. Now, what I was saying as far as a trade, DeAndre Ayton's out there, and a sign and trade by the Kings trading Sabonis. That might be something that, I've been down on the Sabonis pick, but just hear me out. He's more athletic. He has more of an upside offensively, definitely. He has more of an upside defensively as well. So you put those two things together. The fact that the Suns, they're not going to want to be a bad team. They just don't want to spend max money. I think Sabonis is making around, I think he's making around 18, 19 million. So it's a deal that they'll be able to accept. Let's see. Sabonis. Yeah, he's making 19 a year, 20 a year. I'm sure they would play that to Ayton if they could. It gives them a player who actually might be better for them in the sense that he plays with more physicality and more force than Ayton does. Ayton's a bit of a finesse player. So I would look into this. I would look into a signing trade. A lot of people guessed that he was going to go to Detroit, but Detroit picked up the kid during in the draft. So people are saying, hey, Detroit might not do it. If I'm Detroit, I probably don't do it either. Keep the powder dry. And there's always going to be another trade. There's always going to be another place to get a player, and to get a player like DeAndre Ayton. There was this story that came out about him that he likes to play video games, that, he spends hours and hours at a time playing video games. He got into a beef with Monte Williams, who everybody loves Monte Williams, right? So I say that to say this, like, if you're a team like Detroit and you have your franchise player, in Cade Cunningham, why would you bring another player into the mix that's volatile, that has shown and said that his mind is other places? So, but the Kings might say, hey, why am I offering that to the Kings then? The Kings bet on his upside. You're the Kings. You got to bet on the upside of somebody, and that kind of resets the clock too, because Fox is 24, Sabonis is 26, changes your timeline because Ayton is 22, so then you can kind of say, okay, even if the Fox situation goes south and we have to attach a pick to, at least we have Ayton as a building block, and then we can go from there. What else do we have here? Harden declines his option. So he looks like he's declining his option, and he's going to take less than the max. So he's doing this so the Sixers have their taxpayer option, which it looks like is about $10 million a year, which you're going to offer to PJ Tucker, who's 37 already and was hurt last year. It just seems like Morey is just trying to bring his old band together from Miami back, from the Houston back, excuse me. So, but I like the move, him taking less than max. You can get him, you can use your biannual exception and get somebody else. And then, Tobias Harris is there available to trade, Milton. So they're adding players. So we'll see. If Harden gets back in shape, I think he was clearly heavier than his normal pitches. I'll talk about that. And they're good, the bad, the ugly. If you see, he's clearly out of shape. If he gets back into shape, if he gets back into, form, he doesn't even have to be 100% the old Harden. Give me 90%. You would think he tore his Achilles. Yeah, you think he tore his Achilles. My man had a hamstring injury. Why was he looking like that? So, I mean, we'll see what ends up happening. But the fact that he's willing to take less says a lot. All right, so free agency is less than an hour away now. Again, there doesn't seem to be like any major player that anyone's looking at signing. There's no 1201 meetings. There's no player in this. The Lakers announced they picked up options on Stanley Johnson and Wayne Gabriel. I guess. Yeah, it's going to be more trades than anything. It's going to be more trades than anything. So we'll see who gets traded on that side. NFL, day 2 of the Deshaun Watson thing. Again, really not much to say. I just really think this should bring Baker Mayfield back. It just makes the most sense to bring him back. Is Patrick Mahomes better off without Tyreek Hill? That's what they're saying right here. My man is Nigerian. Look at the suit combinations he wears. Like, come on, man. You look like you got that straight off the J.C. Penney rack. Look, I think he might be better without Tyreek. They've really improved their receiving core. We'll talk about this in the good, the bad, the ugly on the Chiefs, but they really improved their receiving core. It was really bare bones. They have different types of receivers. They have the MVS, big, fast. You have McCole Hardman, who thinks he should have, been given an opportunity. You have the big slot in Juju. You have the rookie that they drafted. I think it's Sky Moore. So it's just they have a couple different options. They have Josh Gordon. I mean, I don't know what that means in the year of our Lord 2022, but he's on the roster. So they have a couple different options here. And I remember just mentioned him, Deshaun Watson, when he lost Nuke Hopkins. A lot of people thought he was going to struggle as well. And he actually had his best season. And it was able, because he stopped locking on to one guy, he really, truly read the field. Mahomes, this is the first true adversity that he's ever faced. He did not play well for a large stretch of last season, didn't play well in the AFC Championship game. You have Tyreek Hill taking shots at him in the media. You have people ready to give his throne as the next young thing to the kid Allen in Buffalo. We'll see how he responds. This is some real adversity where they're trying to, he's had a golden boy lifestyle where they've put him in the day he started, right? To his merit. I think he earned it, but it's the first time where people are saying, well, let's test his gangster a little bit. So I'm interested to see how he bounces back. Before I leave, I got to bring this up, man. And shout out to my boy, our dog. But I got to bring this up, what I saw today. I didn't think this was real, and I looked it up. I knew the Cowboys hadn't been to the NFC Championship game in a long time, but had no idea 13 of the other 15 teams in the NFC have been there at least twice since Dallas last got there. Only the Commanders and the Lions. Shout out to my man, Tone Loke. I was with Tone Loke. I have a friend, shout out to him, who is a Lions fan, who became a Lions fan the day that they drafted Boss Bailey. You might be asking yourself, who? Boss Bailey is the reason that you become a fan. True story. Oh, God. Shout out to my guy, Tolo. Only the Commanders and Lions have gone longer without appearing in the Catfish Championship round. Man, they're the chokiest bunch of chokers who ever choked. I mean, well, listen, if that Dez incomplete gets called a catch, they make it, right? So it's just like, but damn. But it's going on 30 years now since they made the, I mean, I think it was 96 was the last one. It's going on 30 years. In 4 years, it's gonna be 30 years so you win the conference championship game. Jerry, I mean, the old boy Jerry, he wants to win one. It's like, man, I actually think they have a good team coming back. So that's probably gonna be the first football one I do. All right, we'll go ahead and leave it there. Thanks for the support. Thanks for the love. I'm gonna do a smoke show tomorrow. So I'm gonna get the comments ready, talk about people's comments, talk a little bit about free agency. Thanks for the support. The game is game. All right. Thank you for watching this clip. Do me a favor. Push the button. Hit subscribe. Come on, man. Push it.
Call everybody up.
Push the goddamn button.
Push the goddamn button.
You heard what she said.
And do what's right. You heard her. Push the button. The game is game.
So what's up, man? What's up with you otherwise, you know? The game is a game. Always.